This is such a wonderful time to be here because today is actually Downwinders Remembrance Day, right? And so for us, it meant a lot to be able to hold this town hall and the seminar on how to apply for the compensation, the apology that is the Downwinders work. And so I really want to go back a little bit in history because I think it's important, right? Well, we can go all the way back to the day they bombed New Mexico, right? And it happened. There were national security reasons. Los Alamos was a place that was the birthplace of lots of scientific discovery. And I don't think anybody truly understood the harm it would do to New Mexico, right? One, we didn't even know it was happening. And you read the stories that break your hearts. One of the ones that really touches me is the little girls who were playing when they thought snow was falling in summer, right? They thought snow was falling in summer and they took it into their hands, they smeared it on them, they tasted it. And I think there's only one of those little girls that survived, right? And they just did not take the precautions and did not take the care so that New Mexicans would be safe. And we understand that that might have been a different time, right? But what got me was that when Congress did the right thing by passing the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act, when they did the right thing by passing the Radiation Compensation Act, and they said, we are sorry, we didn't mean to affect people who live downwind from these above ground explosions. We didn't mean to poison the uranium workers who went into those mines. Some of them were above ground, some of them were underground, without any kind of protection. So we are going to give compensation. The injustice that was done when they exploded a bomb that impacted our families was repeated when they left New Mexico out. And when Tina Cordova and the Tularosa Downwinders, and we see some of them here. Can we just give a big cut out to the Tularosa Downwinders? Please stand up, Tularosa Downwinders. Please give, these women and several other, oh my God, these women and that great musician over there came to my office when I first got elected. And they walked me through it. But before they did that, they made sure I cried. Very, very good, right? Because they ran around the table and they each told me their stories of how many people in their families had been poisoned, had cancer, had the diseases related to radiation exposure. And we all cried together, didn't we? And then they said, here's the law, here's the work we have been doing. And so I inherited from Ben Ray Lujan in the House. I took the baton that said we need to keep fighting so that we can make sure that New Mexicans get covered. We need to keep fighting to make sure that the uranium workers who worked after 1971 got covered, because they cut it off at 1971. Well, you know what? In 1972, those mines were still dangerous. Those mines were still operating without the protections they needed to keep them safe. And so Ben Ray went over to the Senate. And then Ben Ray in the Senate and with me in the House, we kept pushing. And we had to negotiate and modify, and we got an apology. We got it out of a judiciary. We got it here, we got it there. We got the Senate to vote. And we kept pushing. And what I need to say is the Tularosa Downwinders, the post-71 uranium workers, and the coalition across the country, because we are not the only community that suffered from the Manhattan Project. We sent our waste to other places. We did not take care to keep people safe. There were other communities that were downwinders besides those that were covered in Nevada and Utah and Alaska, the people in Guam and the Bikini Islands. And so there was a coalition. And the coalition included the people from Missouri who were represented by Josh Hawley. Josh Hawley and me, as you can imagine, we usually are not on the same page, right? And somebody said, how come you're working with Josh Hawley? And I said, because the communities that Josh Hawley represents, the communities I represent, they are bound together by the tragedy and by the sickness and the sadness that happened. And we both represent our communities and want justice. And we need to thank Senator Lujan for bringing Josh Hawley into that coalition. And so finally, in 2025, 35 years after they passed the first radiation control, New Mexico's included! So, and it wasn't easy. I mean, one bus ride, people got on that bus and drove from New Mexico to DC with their oxygen tanks. Right? You know they were sick. But we knew we needed to get this compensation before anybody else died. And that's what we have finally made happen. And I think what's really exciting is that now we have an opportunity to make sure everybody in New Mexico knows that you might be eligible for compensation. It's $100,000 for every person who lived in New Mexico for at least 1 year. If you were a downwinder, you lived in New Mexico for at least 1 year between 1944 and 1962, and then for another short period of time. 1944 to 1962, write that down. You lived in New Mexico for at least 1 year, and you have the little flyers that we handed out because we wanted to make sure that everybody knew that there was an easy list of yellow ones. Because you look at this list, anybody who lived in New Mexico, and then all these diseases, leukemia, multiple myeloma, thyroid, esophagus, stomach, pharynx, intestine, bile ducts, lung, breast cancer, all of these cancers, if you are diagnosed with any of these, and you lived in New Mexico for at least 1 year, you are eligible for that $100,000. And then there's other criteria if you were a minor, which are a little more complicated, but I'm going to focus on the downwinders because we're in Santa Fe. But if you're a minor, we have people outside who can help. That's a little more complicated, the application. And what's really important is that everybody in New Mexico is covered. Because think about it. They exploded that bomb. We've all seen the pictures, right? But what happens? The immediate area is about 150 miles. But it grows because it dissipates. And then it starts, so it covers all of New Mexico down there, and then it starts moving north and starts moving east. And so we were able to argue that everybody in New Mexico was impacted. And now you don't need to say, well, I was in Tularosa at the time, or I was here, or I was in Los Alamos. It's if you lived in New Mexico, every single zip code in New Mexico, and you have one of those cancers, and you lived here for that 1 year or the 3 months, you are eligible for the 100,000. Now, many of us, our parents, our sisters, our grandparents already died. We lost them. We lost them to these diseases. We lost them because of that bomb. So the good thing is that if you are a surviving child or spouse of somebody who would have qualified if they were alive, you can apply. If you are a grandchild, you can apply. Now you have to include all your familia. so if your mom would have qualified and she had 4 kids, all 4 kids, if 3 of the kids are living, the 3 living children have to apply, right? And then if you're the grandchild, all the living, you have to go down to the level of where they're still living relatives. You were eligible to apply. Now, somebody asked me, is 100,000 the right number? No. 100,000 is too little. It's too little given how much loss and mourning and pain we've gone through. And I see tears out there because we're all thinking about the people we loved that died, or the pain that we've gone through if we've had to have the chemo and have the surgeries and gone through all of that. We're thinking about that. So $100,000 isn't enough. But it's what we were able to get through Congress. And it's more than what the original radiation exposure covered. So it's what we got. And it's an apology. This is an expansion, and the act itself is an apology. It says we did not mean to, and we apologize. So it is the United States government's way of saying, discúlpame, I'm sorry. And we finally got it. And so I want you all to help me. I want you to apply as quickly as you can. I want you to tell everybody you know about it, because I am going everywhere I have a meeting about anything. I was out in Cochiti and Peña Blanca yesterday. I said, wait a minute, here's your $1 million for your center, but you need to know about this. And I hand out the flyers because people need to know about this, because $100,000 can make a difference in your lives. It can make a difference in the communities. And I think that's really important. Now, some of the things are difficult. You think, oh my God, how am I going to find these? And we're going to have people talk to you tonight about how to get those documents, about how to, if you were diagnosed after 1973, it's actually a much easier issue to be able to get your medical records, because the New Mexico has a registry. And so you can just mark off, and the Department of Justice will check with them. You don't need to go around and find your doctors. That's the easy part. I've talked to Archbishop Rester about this. The churches are going to be ready to help you out. Social Security is going to be ready to help you out. IRS is. There's lots of places to go to be able to prove that you lived here. You're going to need to get your vital statistics to prove if you're proving for your parent, if you're a survivor. So all this stuff we'll go through today. But there is a lot of people who made this happen. And right now, if you want to, somebody sitting out there who can help you apply right now. Gina Grimes from the State of New Mexico's Environment Department's Radiation Control Bureau, Radiology, and Chemical Advocacy Office. In other words, Gina is out there, and she can help you apply right now. And then we're going to hear from Zach Davis and Micaela Brasesco, who will also be talking. But right now, I want to bring somebody up who has kept this alive, who has strategically kept the faith, and with blessings and prayer and an amazing amount of grit, has made all of this happen. Everybody, let's welcome Tina Cordova, who we would not have this if Tina wasn't here.
Well, first of all, I'm so grateful to have been invited to participate tonight to talk just a little bit about our organization, what we did to get to this place, and then to talk to you about the application process and what everybody should be doing to support the application process. The Tularosa Basin Downwinders Consortium, or TBDC for short, is a 21-year-old organization that started working on this issue 21 years ago. If I had $1 for every time somebody told me, you're wasting your time, nobody's going to come back, they're not going to help us, I could retire, I guess, maybe in Costa Rica or someplace like that. But we never gave up. For 15 years, bills were introduced in the US Congress before we had one single vote. 15 years. For the better part of, I don't know, 12 years, we were going to Washington regularly on our own dime or on money that we raised to lobby. The TBDC had a couple of goals in mind, and I'm going to talk about those, but I want to make sure everybody knows our first goal was to bring attention to the negative health effects that people in New Mexico suffered as a result of being overexposed to radiation from Trinity, right? But then we found out so much more, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. When we found out about the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act passed in 1990, and we were the first people ever exposed to radiation any place in the world from an atomic device, and we weren't included, we saw the injustice of that, and we said we will never stop fighting for justice because we had everything to gain, right, and nothing to lose. And we're an organization that has structure, and I'm so grateful to report that I never did this work alone. So many people have helped me. 3 of them are here tonight. We have a standing steering committee meeting every Monday, and we have been doing this for 12 years, and we rarely miss. And we meet from 5:30 till 8 o'clock almost every Monday. And the people that I'm going to introduce in just a moment are committed to this, have stood side by side with me at all sorts of things, protests that maybe I'll describe in a minute, but all sorts of things to bring attention to this, have mapped out strategies that have worked, like our Congresswoman said, strategies that actually brought us to this place today when everybody thought it was impossible. And so I'd like to ask Mary Martinez White, who grew up in Tularosa like I did, Paul Pino, who grew up in Carrizozo, and Bernice Gutierrez, if you guys could please stand. They're members of our steering committee. The really amazing thing about Bernice is that she was born 8 days before the bomb was detonated in Carrizozo, 35 miles away, the way the crows fly from the bomb site. And she survived because we lost thousands of babies that summer. And I always tell her, you lived, Bernice, because she has documented her contemporaries, children that never lived long enough to be counted, to go to first grade, to be counted in our society, to be members of our communities, to be citizens in this state, and to be able to vote. So she has documented thousands of babies that died just the way you would expect them to die if they were overexposed to radiation. No one has ever come back to account for that, but we have the data, and we have scientists that are working with us to reveal what we have found and discovered, okay? So our group does amazing things. We organize, we chart out strategies, we go to Washington and lobby, we protest at the Trinity Gate site when they open that facility to visitors twice a year, which, by the way, Congresswoman, they should close it down. It's not safe for people to be out there. And 6,000 to 8,000 people will go in every time they have an open house. It's insanity. We decided a long time ago, if they're gonna let people come in here and 6,000 to 8,000 of them are gonna go by, we're gonna hold our signs and we're gonna make sure they know that we lived here. We were the people that were harmed. We were the people that lived as close as 12 miles to that test site. We were never warned before or afterwards, right? And so that's one of the things we do. Another thing that's just remarkable, we have a gentleman on our steering committee who is a farmer. And every year, multiple times every year, he gets produce from Española all the way down to Las Cruces. And he assembles that and distributes it to food banks in places like Carrizozo, Tularosa, Alamogordo, La Luz. That produce goes to places like Cloudcroft, Mescalero. We feed people through the facilities down there that distribute food. And as of the last count, we were at 60,000 pounds of produce taken into those communities to help people. There's an amazing documentary produced about our work. winning awards at film festivals in places like Palm Springs and Santa Barbara and the Berkshires. This documentary is amazing. We've got to find distribution for it. If any of you have contacts to Netflix or Amazon or any of those streamers, please see me. In the meantime, it's being seen at community screenings, and there's one in Albuquerque, February 5th at 6 p.m. It's a free screening hosted by the Albuquerque Community Foundation. If you're interested, go to their website, Albuquerque Community Foundation. Reserve a seat, it's free. I know that there's one planned for New Mexico Highlands University coming up. We don't have a date yet. That's another thing we've been very involved with, promoting a documentary that we think someday could win an Academy Award, but we need help. We need help to get it there. We have art that we own, art that people have produced through all these years and gifted to the Tularosa Basin Downwinders Consortium. Mary Martinez started the process for this. We had an art exhibit in Las Cruces. How many years ago, Mary? 5? 4? 3? 3 years ago. We had an art exhibit down there. It was the beginning of the art that we own now being in multiple exhibits. And we have an exhibit coming up in April at the National Hispanic Cultural Center, the National Hispanic Cultural Center. That exhibit will be up for over a year, and it's going to be fantastic. How many artists do we have, Mary? 31 artists. It's going to be an amazing art exhibit. There'll be a screening of the documentary associated with that art exhibit. And I tell you all these things because we're volunteers. We don't receive a dime for the work that we do. A lot of what we do on our own dime. We've been very blessed to receive funds through the years, through grants that we've applied through, and through very wonderful people that have believed in what we do. The Congresswoman, who we love, by the way, because we needed a voice like that in DC to get this done. And I don't want to just give Congresswoman Ledger Fernandez credit by herself, because all 5 of our members of Congress, led by Congresswoman Ledger Fernandez and by Senator Lujan, all 5 of them fought and fought and fought and kept this alive in Congress and kept this out in front of Congress so that we finally got the bill passed. President Biden, through their efforts, issued a proclamation of support in 2024. No president had ever acknowledged us before. 80 years after they dropped the bomb at Trinity, they finally gave us compensation and acknowledged the harm they did to us. Today, while I'm driving here from Albuquerque, I get a phone call. And it's a woman that I grew up with back home from Tularosa. About 15 years after we graduated from high school, she married her high school sweetheart. Her husband died from brain cancer. He was a child at the time of Trinity he was a child of the next generation. His parents were alive at the time of Trinity. But he was here for the Nevada testing, and I'm going to explain that in just one moment. But let me tell you what she said to me. She said, I got the note from the DOJ saying that they are going to give me the compensation and they want my bank account number. Is this fraudulent? Should I actually respond? And I said, no, absolutely, it's not fraudulent. They finally approved your claim. You have to give them your bank account number so they can put the money in your account, because that's how they do it, folks. They don't send you a check. It's a direct deposit. And we know so many people that have received their money. Today I got calls. So she was in tears. She was in tears. She said, you have no idea what this means to me and my family to receive a check for or a direct deposit for $100,000. Today, I got word from 2 people who got their claim numbers today. So they are moving. The DOJ is moving, but they're receiving a lot of claims. I'm going to tell you something that's going to blow your mind. They're expecting 50,000 claims out of New Mexico, 50,000. That's $5 billion. We need to make sure every one of you who qualifies gets a claim filed. A lady called me the other day and asked me, what do I need to do? And I was running down the list with her and she goes, oh, that's too much trouble. I'm not going to do that. And I told her, let me tell you something. If I had said that 19 years ago, we wouldn't be having this opportunity. If I had thrown in the towel, if we had thrown in the towel, every time somebody told us this isn't going to happen, sometimes things are a little hard, but I told her, guess what? I bet it won't take you 2 full days to get all your stuff together. And when's the last time you worked two full days and made $100,000? And she told me, oh, now that you put it that way, I'm going to get started. And I think we need to keep it in perspective, folks. Even if it takes you a full week. Have you ever made $100,000 in a week? We have to do everything we can to claim the potential $5 billion that's out there. It changes families. It changes lives. We have a flyer outside that will give, just a 1-page, it's very simple. It's not as nice as the Congresswoman's flyer. It's just a 1-page flyer. We have volunteers. We did some training in September. We had 150 people participate in the training. We have volunteers even in this community, and we have volunteers all across the state who have already filed successful claims and who know how to file successful claims. We have a woman out of the Flagstaff RECEP office. You're going to hear from our RECEP folks in just a moment. We have a woman out of Flagstaff who's been filing successful claims. Right now, she doesn't have a lot to do because they only added 1 county in Arizona. So she's been helping people. If we have a difficult claim or a question that we can't answer, she can answer it. The Congresswoman touched on something very important. If you're filing as a child, you have to file as a family. I get calls, I'm not kidding you, I got one last night from a woman who said, my sister in Santa Fe won't sign the claim. She doesn't want to sign the claim. I said, you know what? I would submit it and get a claim number, and maybe you can coerce her with the amount of money she's going to get to finally sign the claim. But at least you'll be in the process, you'll get a claim number, and you can, the DOJ is going to give you guys an opportunity to complete whatever it is that's missing. You have to file as a family. And I know that this is going to cause issues for people. I have gotten countless calls. If you had 5 siblings and 2 are deceased, you still have to list them. You still have to supply birth certificates and death certificates. And you can get birth and death certificates on behalf of a sibling. That's public record. The Department of Health in the state of New Mexico is working with us. As a matter of fact, I have a meeting with them tomorrow because they have a call center that's fully staffed and up and running since COVID. They are going to help us so that they can route people to volunteers, so that they can route people to where they can get their documents. And we're going to do a call to action and ask every agency in New Mexico to cooperate. I heard last night that in Socorro, the Catholic Church didn't want to supply information to people. We can't have that happening. Right now, and I can only theorize, I don't know for certain. I can only theorize about this. Right now, the people of St. Louis have filed twice as many claims as the downwinders, twice as many. That's because they're getting full cooperation. They have archivists working in their libraries, and they're helping people get their documentation together quickly. We want to do everything we can to address that. Please, 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 if you need help, reach out to us. Our website is on our flyer. You can reach out to us through our website. We will find a volunteer to help you. I really don't want anybody to give up. Even our members of Congress have constituent service people that will help. So please do not give up. If you are entitled to a claim, you should file it. If you're entitled to do it singularly, representing yourself, file it. If you're entitled to do it with your brothers and sisters, do it. Let's do everything we can, folks, to make sure that we claim all that $5 billion. I will be around if you guys have any questions. And I, again, appreciate so much what Congresswoman Ledger Fernandez has done for us. We owe her a deep debt of gratitude. We recently were talking and I told her, we're not done yet. We're going to fight for more. There's more that we need. And I just want to quickly describe one thing. The reason the compensation is from 44 to 62 is because in 1944 is the beginning of when they started testing radioactive materials at Los Alamos. They started what are called the radioactive lanthanum tests. Those tests vented radiation into our environment. The reason it ends in 1962 is because that's when they did the last above ground test in Nevada. At the time of the testing in Nevada, they had monitoring stations in New Mexico. And they know, as a matter of fact, this isn't speculation, this is fact, that we received regular dosing from the Nevada test sites into 1962. So that's why it includes us through 1962. Thank you very much.
Persistence, persistence, persistence. That's how you get justice. So I want to remind people about a couple of things. And the reason why I think it's important that you did receive the call to say, is this a scammer? Is we know there are scammers out there. Anytime somebody sees, oh, there's $100,000, I'm going to try to get it. So we do want you to be careful that you don't give your information out, you don't give your claims. You're filing it with the Department of Justice. And we have people who can help you, the Tularosa Downwinders. You can call my office, fernandez.house.gov. Go to my website. We have all the information. There's so many people who want to help you because we want people to get compensated. It took too long to get the compensation. We need to get the money out to the people. And we need to get it fast because this only lasts till December 31st, 2027. So you only have 2 years. Basically now it's only a year and 11 months to file the claim. That's why you got to file the claim, even if you're still like negotiating with the familia about everybody signing in, get the claim in so that it is in the queue. Because I need to tell you, the reason why they didn't want to let this go through is because that's a lot of people. They poisoned a lot of people. And the way they said, oh, we can't spend, they'll spend money on all kinds of stuff. They spent a whole lot of money on building the bomb and exploding the bomb and testing the bomb. And we know there was reasons for that, but then spend the money on compensating the people who were hurt. That's our thing. Spend the money on the people who were, those t-shirts said we were the unwitting, what do they say? Unwitting victims, right? We contributed to our national defense, but never got recognized and compensated. So that's why we need to get it done right away, because I don't know if we'll have this moment again, right? So I want to, Carlos, where's Carlos? Where is it? Carlos, stand up. So Carlos in my office has headed up the issues around this. He's our constituent representative. He'll help you. He can go put pressure on everyone. And that's why I talked to the Archbishop, Rester, so that he can tell all of his churches, you cooperate. Turns out the churches have really good records. You have to know, like, oh, I was baptized this year, and then they'll go through all those years. If you know the month even better, they have big vaults with all of the records, right? So he's committed. He's going to get them to put it in the bulletins. He's going to get all his churches. So if you hear of somebody who is not helping out, let us know, and we'll pick up the phone, and we'll convince them it's the right thing to do. So then I think those were the big things I wanted to remind everybody about. And now there are agencies that help you, that their whole job is to explain things and to help us out. And we have two people from the UNM RECP. It's a long acronym. So from UNM, there are two people from UNM, and this has been their job, is to help people get the compensation. They have a whole lot more work now. So I want to introduce Zach Davis and Michaela Barshevsko. Come on up. Is it both of you?
Hi there, my name's Zachary Davis. I am the program manager for the UNM Radiation Exposure Screening and Education Program. That's where we get RECEP, we just shorten it because it's too much to say all day. Michaela Brasesco is my clinic and outreach coordinator. Stand up real quick, Michaela. Give a big wave. Super, super helpful. If you call our office, you're going to get we're a two-person show. So it's either going to be Michaela you're talking to or it's me that you're talking to. We will do our best to answer any questions you have. If we can't answer it, we will try and guide you or point you in the right direction to try and get you the information that you need. If you do call our office and you're leaving a message, leave your number twice. We've got some archaic phones. They don't save the numbers that you're calling from. So people say, hey, this is Tom, call me back. It ain't gonna happen. So please leave a message, leave your number twice, speak slowly and try and articulate the best you can. Next slide, please. So what are we're talking about here? I'm going to try and quickly cover downwinders and uranium workers, and this is going to go over more of how to fill out the application rather than some of the history that we've already heard. Real quick, you get to file for, you only get compensated once. If you've been compensated in the past, you're done. If you were one of the first people that got $50,000 as a uranium worker in New Mexico, unfortunately, you're done once again. They're not going to give you that extra $50,000. If you are a downwinder and a uranium worker and you could file both ways, you may have a decision to make. And I'll explain a little bit more about that later. Downwinders are exactly that, the people that are exposed to radiation from above ground weapons testing who later developed a qualifying cancer. The uranium workers are those folks in between 1971 and 1990 that worked for at least 1 year. There is another way that if you worked in a mine or something that had a higher concentration, if you have 40 working level months of exposure, in less than a year at one of those sites, you may be able to file a successful claim that way. The money is tax-free. You don't get taxed on it. But if you do have any outstanding federal debts, they will deduct that from the compensation that you get. Next slide, please. So this is what we're looking at. We've got all of Idaho is now game, Utah, and then, of course, all of New Mexico, a little bit of Mojave County in Arizona. But that's, it's a huge swath of land there that they've opened this up to. And, it's tough, but like I said, we're a two-person show. We're trying to do the best we can. Next slide, please. Kind of went through that already. One thing I do want to bring up is if you've only lived in New Mexico in 1962 between June 30th and July 31st, just that 61-day period, it counts. So keep that in mind. You don't always have to have a full year. Most people are going to fall into that full year, though, in between 44 and 62. Next slide, please. Who's the claimant? So these are the people that can apply, and this is the order. So if you've got the claim form, you're going to start filling that out. You're going to fill it out as the claimant yourself. Then it's going to go to your spouse. If you cannot fill it out, you're no longer here, et cetera. Your parents can then file for that person. Your child can then file, and then your grandchild. And those that cannot apply, you cannot apply for your sibling or aunts, uncles, cousins. And I've already covered that. Next slide, please. Eligible diseases, and this is for downwinders. You can see all of the cancers that we've got listed here. Excuse me. These have to be primary cancers. So it cannot be a cancer that has metastasized from somewhere else. So if it was a kidney cancer and then it metastasized to my lung, it's not going to cut it. But if it's a primary lung cancer, then you can file that way. Once you can read that if you would like, that's a kind of a small area of people, but that does pop up every once in a while. Next slide, please. So I think I kind of accidentally already covered this one. But once again, a primary cancer diagnosis of prostate cancer that spreads to form a secondary cancer is not eligible. Next slide, please. Two ways you can file. They are planning on having an online portal that you'll be able to file through. Once that gets finished and approved, that should make the filing a little easier and a little quicker to do it that way. I would not wait for that to happen. They had said by the time they were originally saying the Department of Justice was at the end of December, or December was when they were going to have that going. Obviously, it's not up and running yet. Keep looking at the DOJ RECA site. That's where it'll show you when you can file there that way. The other way is going to be doing it by mail. If we are doing it by mail, you're going to make sure you have everything that is, any of the medical records that you get, they must be certified. I'll go over a little bit more about certification here in a bit. The online documents don't need to be certified. I'm not going to go into why. I'm not real sure why. It's because you're sending them a copy anyway. They're not going to feel the embossed part of the paper proving that it's certified. All documents will be returned. They have up to a year to file your claim. And it may take up to that year for them to do it. After they're done and you've gotten your, you've sent them your information for them to be able to deposit the money, then they will send all of that information back. I have never heard of anybody not getting their information back. I've had several calls of worried people wondering if they're going to get their information back, but they've all gotten it back that I know of. One thing you do want to do when you do have all of your information, these are important documents, send it certified mail, receipt requested. Make copies of any and everything that you mail them, just so you have a solid pile of everything that you have sent off to the DOJ. And add insurance to that just as a fail-safe. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we're going to kind of walk into a lot of the reason that I hear people don't want to do it and stuff is they either look at the packet online or they grab one and it can be kind of daunting to look at. I'm going to try and break that down a little bit for you quickly and hopefully it'll alleviate some of those fears. Next slide. Part one, your information. Doesn't matter if you're the person who's gotten sick or not. If you're the one filling out that form, your information is going to go here. Fill it out as best you can. Include your email if you can. Residence address can be the same as the mailing address, even if it's the PO box. So that's where your information is going to go if you're filling out that claim form. Next slide, please. And you can see the page number down here. Real quick, we have 50 of each forms out there. If somebody else doesn't have them, there's two boxes of them out there. You can grab one there. This is the tribal affiliation. It allows the DOJ to get those records from the tribal affiliation if you fill this out. Anything that you don't fill out, they won't do without your permission. So they need your permission in order to be able to move forward with some of this stuff. Complete and release the tribal vital records at the end of the form. That's another part of it, but we'll go on. Next slide, please. Part two, the claimant information. This is the person who became ill with a compensable disease. And it tells you right here, very straightforward, if you are not the person, if you are the person who became ill, you may proceed to part three because you filled out part one. You don't need to duplicate that, but it'll tell you, jump ahead, move forward. Let's see. Sorry. If a claimant was non-citizenized, did not have a social security number, you can submit it without. It is a little harder. It may take a little more time for the DOJ. They will do their due diligence and they will find out, you know, if you truly are a real person or not. Next slide, please. Now you're going to fill out what the relationship is. This is mostly downwinder, but a lot of the uranium worker follows the same procedure. So this is going to be who, you know, obviously, you know, is it the self? Is it the spouse? Once again, they give you hints on where to go next. So that's going to be the relationship of the person who became ill. And then you would go on to wherever, if I was the child filling it out, I would go to part 6 on page 4. If I was the parent, I would go to part 7 on page 6. Next slide, please. Self-filer documents. Self-filers only complete if you're a self-filer. You're going to want to get your birth certificate. If you don't have your original birth certificate, you need a certified copy of your birth certificate. Typically, it's going to be the county clerk at in the county you live in is where you would get that. Any changes of name that you have due to being married, you've got to document and prove all of those name changes. Let's see. Other tribal records can work in lieu of a birth certificate. Some people will go to the county clerk and they can't find your birth certificate. I've had that happen a few times and stuff. And you get a record from the county clerk saying, you know, we cannot locate this person's birth certificate, birth record and stuff and have it certified. Once again, the Department of Justice is going to do what they can to figure out what's true and what's not. If you do not have a marriage certificate, submit other records like tribal records that are showing name changes. We run into this more with downwinders. Let me back up a hair and just say, when the UNM RECEP office was formed, and this was, or they started getting grants, and this was 2002, I believe, we primarily are set up to screen uranium workers. That was our bread and butter up until this got passed and the whole, downwinder thing came about. And now we have all these downwinders that, we're trying to deal with also and stuff. We do not have all of the answers, but like I said, we will guide you in the correct way to try and get you those answers the best we can. Next slide, please. Surviving spouse, self-explanatory. Complete a filing for a past spouse. Must have been married for at least 1 year prior to their passing. So if it was less than a 1 year marriage, you're not going to be able to file for that person for compensation from that person passing. Let's see. Next slide, please. Marriage information. What do we need? Complete all prior marriage information. You must have been married for at least 1 full year before your spouse has passed. And you'll find that on page 3 to 4. It's pretty straightforward once again. Next slide. Required documents, unless you have filed electronically, like I had mentioned, these are usually the documents that you're going to be trying to find out or acquiring, getting all of those documents. Let's see, affidavit from a witness family can work also. Proof of cohabitation can also qualify too sometimes. Insurance policies, tax records, Native American law, tradition, customs. All of those things can work in lieu of having an actual marriage certificate. Next slide, please. RECA compensation for children is split between all surviving children. If you're filing, say I have 10 siblings, say 9 siblings, and say I'm the only one that is filling this out, everybody else said, no, I'm not going to do it. It doesn't mean the DOJ is going to find out from them whether or not they want the compensation. If they don't want to go through it and they don't want the compensation, it doesn't mean I get their compensation. I get my 10%. The rest goes back into the pool and the DOJ's pool and stuff, and they just move on from there. So if your siblings aren't participating, it doesn't mean you will get their compensation, but you still will get your sliver. Let me see. Next slide, please. other children. So adopted, natural, stepchildren. Select whether you are a natural, adopted, or a stepchild. Select if your parent had other children. Must complete the information of all other children your parent had. Include stepchildren who lived with the claimant who had a parent-child relationship. Once again, the DOJ is gonna track this down. They're going to find out. If you wanted to try and slide it past them or something, not that anybody would do that, but if somebody accidentally tried to do that, they will still figure it out. They're really good at what they do. Next slide, please. Required documents, once again, this is kind of redundant and stuff, but this is also the birth certificates, death certificates, marriage certificates, divorce decrees, papers of your adoption, those type of things. Stepchildren must prove your step-parent was married to your natural parent and records and records you lived with your step-parent. Death certificates, once again, for any siblings who will have passed. The more of that information that you can supply and not have them try and look up, the quicker your process, the quicker your application will get processed. Next slide, please. Let me see. Kind of done that. Any of the surviving children, once again, there is a page, and I think it might be on the next slide and stuff, where it'll have each sibling that can go in there and sign off on it, and basically, rather than the DOJ once again reaching out to that whole family and trying to track down all the siblings. If you have all of them sign that page, next slide, please. I think it's not it, I'm sorry. But that will help expedite it. So get all those names, get those signatures that you can. Parents, grandchildren, or grandparents, once again, you've got to collect all of that information. Let's see. If they do find things that are missing and they want you to try and find them, there's basically three ways your claim is going to go. You're either going to get a letter saying, or you'll get a claim number, then you'll get something that says basically your claim has been approved, then we need your bank account so we can deposit the money. You can have a deficiency, and that's where something's missing. Maybe the one sibling didn't sign off and stuff like that. So they may kick it back to you and say, hey, can you provide this information? And if you can, provide it and stuff. Otherwise, they'll try and figure it out on their own. Once again, any of that information you can fill out and help them out with and stuff will speed things up. If you have questions, at the end of the slide, I'll give you the Department of Justice's number. You can call them. You can call us. You can call, there's a the Flagstaff RECEP office is really good with the downwinder stuff. So is the New Mexico office at the Northern Navajo, but she is also slammed with people, calling. So that's why we're kind of deferring a lot of that to the Flagstaff folks, because they didn't have this huge expansion and they're very helpful to try and help. So we will show that number also. Next slide, please. Exposure information. You have to fill this out. You just got to state how you're filing and stuff. And this is the time that you lived in New Mexico. Next slide, please. You can check, I believe you can just check the one. You only have to have one qualifying checkbox. You don't have to prove yourself 3 times over. And if some of the Tina or Michaela, if either of you hear me speaking wrong, let me know. Throw a phone at me. So what we want to do here is you're choosing your location, where you were in the time period you were there. And it lists those guys there to show you what you would need to, the information you would need to supply there. Next slide. Proof of residence. This can be a little tricky. Things that they can use for proof of residence: tax records, school records, employment records, birth and marriage certificate, personal letters, or envelopes even, church religious records, voting record, personal diaries. They can use your yearbook from a school you went to. And I've had people send in a yearbook, and they get their yearbook back eventually. And so that's what they sent. I have people that just send report cards in. I got a gentleman who has 3 years of elementary school report cards that are on just basically a credit card, size piece of paper and stuff. But you can tell this thing's old. It's, not something somebody made. So you can go that route. Other things: proof of full-time employment or residently at one or more addresses on to date less than 3 years apart is best. They're getting a little more lenient about this from what I understand. They used to be a little more hardcore about it, but they've relaxed their proof requirements for that. Let's see. Documents must include the name of the person who became ill, indicate where they lived, and a date. So that's kind of back to the little report card. All 3 of those things were there. That's what was sent in. Next slide, please. Certifying documents. Like I had mentioned before, typically these will have a stamped or a raised seal of some kind. If you go to the Bernalillo County Clerk and you get your certificate from them and stuff, it's not going to look super special, but you'll feel the embossed area down on the bottom of it. That's what you want to look for. As far as like uranium workers go, if they were filing and one of the things that I write is if they've had a positive B read and they have a diagnosis of pulmonary fibrosis, one of the things that I can do in my office is I write a certification of records on UNM letterhead. It's a nice shiny little piece of paper and stuff, and that's all they need as far as that goes. The DOJ's seen enough of these from my office and stuff that, they can kind of, I've had several people send in copies of those. I don't recommend it, send in the original, but usually they'll honor it. Let's see. Okay, once again, certified something that's not created by a government entity. Ask the source for a letterhead of whoever created the document with the date, the statement, the attached records containing number of pages pertaining to this person is a true and accurate copy of what records kept in our files, and it is signed. And that's basically what I fill out a lot of the time. Next slide, please. Compensable diseases. You want to check the box of the primary cancer that you're going to be filing with. This is just kind of very common cancers that we get asked a lot if these are covered. Prostate, kidney, skin, cervical. They are not, unfortunately. Those are the list of primary cancers. Next slide, please. Yes. And you're saying you didn't supply that information the first time? They will want it. Yeah, so you would come up with a deficiency that way. And they would say, hey, you didn't provide the correct medical information that you needed to provide. And so it depends on how they're doing it too. Because if you did have them contact a New Mexico tumor registry, then they may just go right to that New Mexico tumor registry and see what the New Mexico tumor registry says. But if you didn't check that box and you were just supplying the medical records, they're going to want them to be certified and they're going to want them to show that it was a primary cancer. Yeah, that's what you would want to do. I would suggest if you can, and you've got medical records, from your doctor's office, hospital, cancer center you were treated at, wherever it was, that you use those documents first. Get them certified from the organization that's providing them. Only if you check that box. Because and I don't want to get into it too much yet, but there's some caveats to that. Let me just put it that way. So if you're providing the original documents, I'm sorry, certified documents from the place where you were treated, you should be okay. You wouldn't have to go the New Mexico Tumor Registry route. If you didn't supply those documents and you did check the box for the New Mexico Tumor Registry to be contacted, that's where they'll get those. Okay. Yeah, and I think I know what you're going to say, and this is the caveat I was speaking to. Oh, gotcha. Okay. Great information. Thank you. Go ahead. Yeah. I would mark the first one. And if they were being treated at the same place and they both state their primary, you're probably going to be okay and probably going to be safe and stuff. But if you wanted, you could just file with the first primary cancer and leave it at that. Once again, you don't have to prove yourself over and over. If they come back and say, well, we didn't find that this was true certified document and stuff, then you might have to go to the other cancer. Um, Biopsy. The death certificate, yeah, because some of them say cardiac arrest, exactly. But as long as it's a primary cancer, she was asking if the death certificate, it says something different, that they did not die of that cancer. What would be the recourse there? And that was the answer to that. Yes. Hold on, let's get the mic to you. That won't cut it. You go to the, Yeah, you would go to the organization that you were treated at, see if they can provide you with yeah, and but that's either for, doesn't matter who it's for, that's what you would want to try and track down. Um, eh, exactly.
Some of us are, you have thyroid cancer, you haven't died, but she's eligible because she got one of the diseases. So it doesn't matter what your loved one died of. What matters is, did they have a diagnosis of one of these diseases? They could have had a diagnosis of one of these diseases, and they got in a car accident. They're still eligible as long as they had one of these diseases.
Exactly.
Remember, bomb created disease. So we're compensating you for the disease. And why don't you explain a bit, and the thing is, the point that people are trying to make is that there's lots of different ways of proving these different pieces, right? You have to prove who you are, that's pretty easy, right? But then where did you live here, so you can use the different records. But then even on the medical conditions, there's the death certificate, there's your doctors, but then there's also something called the tumor registry.
Mhm.
And the tumor registry is really, can be very useful for those people who no longer have access to records, to go on and go around, or maybe the clinic's closed. There's limitations, because it really only applies if the diagnosis was after 1973. But there's something called a tumor registry, and he's going to talk about that. This, in many ways, makes life a little easier for somebody like, for a parent or a grandparent, or when you go back, and it's harder to find me. So there's lots of different ways of proving that you had cancer, lots of different ways of proving you lived here for at least a year. And let's go to the tumor registry map. So does an eye check us?
I'll try and run through real quick. Yeah, I was gonna say, so yeah, try and hold questions until we get done, just so I can try and run through this real quick. One other thing I wanted to mention is, some death certificates will just say cancer of the lung, but it doesn't state that it's a primary cancer. So that might get tossed out, and they may ask you to prove that. If you're providing your own records, take pages 18 on to the diagnosing doctor hospital and ask them to basically provide that information and certify it. If not, you're going to want to complete the tumor registry release, because if it's been more than 10 years, a lot of those medical records get wiped out. Let's see, have the doctor's office certify it. Once again, letterhead of whoever's creating it, sign it, and a statement saying that these attached medical records are true and accurate copies of the information that that organization is holding. Next slide. Let's see, we've got the eligible documents. New Mexico Tumor Registry started in '66. It's kind of incomplete in between 66 and 73. 73 on up until 2 years it usually takes about 2 years for them to collect it. So what, 2024, 2023, they should have record of that through the tumor registry. IHS may be able to pull the records from the personal health record or by talking with the IHS clinic, which saw the ill person. Excuse me. Let's see. Let's go to the next slide because I want to try and touch on some other stuff. Sorry about this. Let's see. You're just going to check the box whether it's certified, or if you did not have the certified documents, you want to check this box saying, please contact the New Mexico Tumor Registry. Let's see. Next slide, please. If you have received any assistance from a RECEP office, check that and then write them in there, UNM RECEP, Flagstaff RECEP, whatever the case may be. It really helps us look like we're not sitting around twiddling our thumbs when I would so like to be doing that some days, but it's not the case right now. Anyway, next slide. Previous payments. So, you may have received, all filers must complete this. If you sued someone because of the same cancer diagnosis in this application, you received prior RECA award for any illness. This is different than workers' compensation. And if you've, note if you filed a Department of Labor claim. Previous payments of money, have you received something for that before? Has anyone else filed a claim under the Department DOL's Energy Employment, EOICPA is what we call it for short, for that process? Next slide. Let's see, attorney representation. And if you are working with an attorney, they're going to fill this out. They're going to know what to do. So you can fill that out if you need to. And it does explain how much. It's either 2% if they're just helping you straight out file everything. If they have to do any adjudication for you, fight for you, then that goes up to 10% of the compensable the compensation. Next slide. Let's see, attorney acknowledgement. They're just going to state what they're claiming. Next slide. Appointed legal guardians. And that's if you're completing this form as a court, completing the form as a court-appointed legal guardian. I have never run into this, but that might be a thing. Let's see. You will know if you're a court-appointed legal guardian. If you are, you must complete and submit a certified court record of your guardianship. Next slide. Signature. It's a good idea to sign it. They're not going to kick it back to you if you don't sign it. So make sure you sign it. Next slide. Authorization for the state cancer registry. So we checked that box because we couldn't find our medical records. This is what you're going to want to fill out for the New Mexico tumor registry to be able to track you down or track down the cancer. This might help the DOJ find them for your claim. Oh,
Also met with the state cancer registry, and they are prepared for this. They're going to be turning around these, they said that they can turn it around in 2 weeks. So if you, if you are within the time period where it's post 1973, this is an easy way to do it, right? So you don't have to go around to each of the hospital, and you check it. And they're turning around the response back to DOJ. So DOJ and the registry talk directly. And that's the relationship there. It's not, you don't go to the state registry, you check this off. The Department of Justice says, okay, they send an email to them or they send it out to them, it gets that back, it's done. And they said they're gonna keep it at a 2-week turnaround. I've gotten a commitment that if they don't have enough staff, I talked to the governor, they're gonna put more staff there and try to get you guys more staff. Because we want these claims to go through. So that's why I think this one kind of sounded, if this fits with you and your cancer,
And you don't have one of these other easily, it's not a death certificate, you don't have, you know, it's for your parents, maybe who was the doctor, then this could be an easy one if you're within this time period of 19, the diagnosis, really it's after 1973, it's the easiest for them.
My understanding, yeah. Let me see. Okay, next slide. Next slide, please. Let's see. We had talked about checking the box about release of tribal records. This is where you would fill that out. Signature or thumbprint mark when you're filling that information out. Once again, it allows the DOJ to process this stuff a little quicker. Next slide, please. This was the slide that I was talking about, eligible surviving beneficiaries. So if I was filing for my dad and I'm including all my siblings, this is where I would want the eligible surviving beneficiary, all of my siblings to sign on this page. And then we can send that in. It speeds things along once again. Next slide, please. After the application, the first thing you'll get is a confirmation number. They'll give you a claim number. Next thing they'll do is you want to note your claim number. Anytime you contact the Department of Justice, you're going to use that claim number. Don't lose it. The next letter you should receive is an approval packet, a discrepancy letter, or a denial letter. Let's see, include the claim number on anything that any correspondence. Next slide. Uranium worker compensation. Qualifications, 1971 to 1990 for at least 1 year working as a uranium worker. Next. Let's see. Next slide. And I'm going to run through some of this. Much smaller diagnosis area of things that you can use. Lung cancer, pulmonary fibrosis, 95% of the people that come through my clinic, this is how they are filing. And it's because they have what they call a B-read and a diagnosis letter, certification of records, all coming from my office. Renal, kidney cancer, or chronic renal disease, including nephritis and kidney tubal tissue injury. Next slide, please. Once again, we still need the proof of disease, sign release form to authorize the SSA. And I'll speak to that in a second. Next slide. So when you submit your uranium worker claim form, along with your medical records and everything, you want to submit one of these. There is a date box down here. Do not fill out that date box. It's only good for 120 days. If the DOJ can't get to your claim quick enough and that date expires, they're going to send it back to you. And now we've got letters going back and forth. This you can even just put 1990 there. Don't look at those dates, but basically any time through 1990, because that's the time period we're looking for. There is no cost for this to be done once it gets sent to the DOJ. So do not pay for somebody to send your information off to the Social Security Administration. DOJ does not want it. They're going to get it themselves. Next slide. Let me see. Okay, so basically this gets a little redundant and stuff, so I'm going to kind of roll through some of this and stuff. The claim form is very similar. There's boxes that specifically give you small directions here on what you need to fill out and what you don't. Next slide, please. Once again, who you're filing for, same thing. Next slide. And that goes into, you still must list all the surviving children, and all of those same things still apply. You're still going to get the birth certificate, death certificate, all of that information you still need. Next slide. The employment history, fill that out the best that you can. You are not going to get graded on this, and they're still going to they're going to find out from the SSA whether or not you truly did work for that 1 year. Next slide, please. Compensable diseases, once again, you're going to check the correct box, and then you're just going to move on with that. If it is a lung cancer, we still have the same New Mexico Tumor Registry checkbox there. And like Congresswoman said, the New Mexico Tumor Registry is directly bound to the Department of Justice. That's who they're going to communicate with. Next slide. Let me see. Just next slide, please. Once again, attorney representation, very familiar, same thing. Next slide, please. And okay, just once again, the Privacy Act. You need to fill that stuff out, just saying, look, I'm telling the truth. Next slide. Vital records, once again, you can still use the tribal affiliation if you need to prove some of that information. Next slide. And let's see, once again, the children, have all of them fill it out, etc. Next slide. I'm just trying to make sure. So we've got our phone number is right here. This is the RECEP program. That is one of the phone numbers for us. If you even plug in UNM RECEP into Google, you'll get our information. You'll get our website. It's a UNM website. North Country Healthcare in Flagstaff, Candace Lewis, is probably the person you'll be talking to. Super, super knowledgeable with downwinders. They have, like I said, some extra time. I would even say, don't call us if you have a downwinder question, call them. You can call us, but we're probably going to defer you to them. IHS Clinic in Shiprock. You can call them, but they're inundated with work as well. Let's see, New Mexico Environment Department, they do charge a small fee. It's not over the top, obviously. So out of $100,000, they would get 500. UNM Law Clinic, these folks, the last year they had a bunch of student lawyers that all came together and made some of the slides and made some. They do have a couple people there. If you are looking for legal advice, you can call them for free. They won't charge you anything that I know of. I believe they're doing everything for free. And you can also contact phone for the Department of Justice. They will return your call. They are busy folks too. This is where all of your claim forms will go to. That is also on page 16, 14. Do you remember, Michaela? The address for DOJ. She's going to give me a number here in just a minute. It's on 2 different pages though, but that is also listed. Next slide. Thank you. Once again, you can call me, email me, that's fine. You can call or email Michaela too. We're both happy to talk to you. Thank you.
All these slides are on my website. So if you go to fernandez.house.gov, you do RECA or relative radiation exposure, you get a list of all these slides.
Yes.
And I wanted to say something. It looks like it's a long bridge, but if you look at it, like really sad for this page, it's a lot of filling in that. And this program, you don't really need an attorney because you're not arguing. Not saying, oh, I will, all you have to do, so all the stuff you have to gather to give the attorney, are the same things you're gonna gather to give to them, right? There we go. And who knows why that was? And so I think that, but if you feel you want to have somebody hold their hand, they're entitled to get about 2,000 of the 100,000. Whereas if you go to the environmental department, it's 500. So if you want to have somebody else actually do the form, that's when you're thinking about, or you can get help for free. So, and you can get help for free from the downwinders. I want to say that email address again, it's fernandez.house.gov, that's mine. So it's my last name, fernandez.house.gov. It's the website is 2 letters. Trinity Downwinders. So the Trinity Explosion Downwinders. And you could, if you just do Downwinders, New Mexico, you'll find that out. A couple of things. One is, if you send all the information in and you get a denial letter, it's like, oops, you can then fix it. You can get denied 3 times Because we know people might send stuff in when we vote, and that's how we vote the bill. That's what the bill says. The bill says you can get denied once, you can get denied 3 times, you can get denied 3 times, so you can fix things. And they might not send you a denial right away. They might send you, oh, a deficiency. So don't fret too much, because they'll let you know what you need to do, and then you have a lot of help. You have Carlos, you have, all of us are here to help. Because as we said, we want that money to flow to New Mexico. It is an apology. We shouldn't, the United States government shouldn't have done this. They didn't mean to do this. And now we're going to compensate that $100,000 per claim. And the other thing is, you saw that in some ways, the uranium workers, it's a little more complicated. Well, if you're a uranium worker, and I need to give a call out to Mr. Harrison. We love, I mean, the uranium workers, the part of the coalition, they were amazing. He went up to, with us to the State of the Union because we wanted to take the issue. We took the issue to everybody. We brought Hakeem Jeffries to meet with the downwinders here. Like, we did everything we could to make sure everybody knew about these issues, right? But they can choose. You can say, I'm going to choose one or the other, right? But the other wonderful thing about this is you don't need to prove. Like before, when it was just the uranium workers, well, we know those uranium workers, they would go home and they had family. And their family was getting sick, and there was no way for their family to get compensated. Now their family can get compensated. So that's what this is meant to do, is everybody. You don't have to prove anything anymore. You just have to prove you lived here, you were sick, you're eligible. You lived, you are who you are, you got sick with one of these diseases, you're eligible. That's it. It's a fairly simple program. Lots of documentation, but basically that is what it is. So I really want to give a shout out to, can we have the Tularosa downwinders come on up with us so that we can take a, come on. Oh, and so we'll take, do we have time for questions? Did we run out of time? Okay. Thank you so very much. They're doing it free of charge. Give it up for the state of New Mexico. And they're faking you. Okay, so let's make sure everybody here, this is what we said earlier. Whenever there's something that says $100,000, you're going to have scammers. So make sure it's the Tularosa. But it's the Tularosa. So look and see, are they them? Are they recognize them? You're going to see, so that it's not downwinder.com is a fraudulent, downwinders.com. It's Trinity.
Yeah, I thank you, Mary. I need to clarify this because what they're telling people is, number one, that they can get them at the front, to the front of the line, which is not going to happen. Number two, they say they guarantee results, which they can't. And number three, they're telling everybody, and you just have to make a 6% contribution to the downwinders, which makes people think it's us, and it's not us. If they file, I want to clarify something. If you hire an attorney, it's capped at 2%, right? But if you get denied and they file a successful claim, they can now claim 10%. The check goes to them, they deduct their fees, they pay you. Well, what do you think that incentivizes? That incentivizes them to file a claim that gets denied, delays you getting your money so they can get 10%. You do not need an attorney. Do not go that route, especially not right away.
Bueno, are there any other questions? Because we did, Senor? I'll repeat it.
Answer, and I have to find out that, or using the, what was it,
The registry, the tumor registry. if it was in the way I see it, but you've done a lot more work on this. When I found out about how we could do this, it was like, ooh, if I got that diagnosis, if somebody you loved got that diagnosis after 1973, especially if they're dead, right? That's going to be an easier route, right? But it has to be for one of the cancers. It can't be for one of the diseases. So you need to double check because it's a cancer registry. So the 3 diseases that won't cover, right?
As far as uranium,
Yeah, no, downwinders.
downwinder,
It has to be because it's a tumor registry for
it's
cancer.
got to be a primary cancer.
It's about to be a
That's-
primary cancer.
Yes, it
There-
would have to be for the cancer.
For the cancer. So if you know, like, oh, my mom died of or my mom had diagnosed, well, it's not what you died of, it's what you were diagnosed with. My mom had lung cancer. Then and she was diagnosed in 1981. Then you check that and it goes, if you have easy access to the medical records, you might want to do that. Like what Tina was saying is she can just go to her doctor. She sees her doctor all the time. She's just going to go there. She knows she has it in the hand, because in some ways the tumor registry is a shock. Is it going to work, right? Well, Tina's might feel more comfortable because she's got that easy access. So once again, it's an option. It's an option that you can use. And I think that's the thing about it. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
No, that was.
Okay.
perfect.
Oh, only this mic. What was the question? When you check the box, the Department of Justice. When every doctor, like I'm a cancer survivor too, right? When I got my diagnosis, every provider in New Mexico, anytime there's a diagnosis of cancer, they send that automatically. They've been doing it since 1966, 1963, but they weren't doing it everywhere in the entire state. Starting in 1973, every diagnosis of cancer is automatically sent to the tumor registry. So the tumor registry, because they kind of wanted to know, well, what are the incidences of cancer? Where is it at? It's something they've been doing that's not related to this at all. It's related to tracking cancer in the state of New Mexico. So it's been in existence since the 1960s, but it didn't exist statewide. It just existed like Santa Fe, Bernalillo, Los Alamos, and I think Valencia. So it wasn't cover the entire state. That's why we're recommending it, especially after 1973. If you were in Santa Fe or Bernalillo County or Los Alamos County, it might work for before 1973. But that's the kind of information you can get from them when you call them up. Okay, she had a question first, and then we'll go there.
I know that you said about the the Indian Health Services, but does that include the VA services? Is it easier to get information from them? Because, okay. My dad's primary was the VA.
So real quickly, you answered, we said in the right thing. Look there. So, but repeating, as Tina noted, the VA, the federal records are sometimes easier. So if it was IHS, if it was VA, you can do that. But once again, the VA is also sending information to the cancer registry. IHS is sending cancer, all of the state of New Mexico is gathering all of this information because they want to know about the cancers in the state.
Worked for the Los Alamos laboratory. He was a welder, and he got exposed radiation twice that we know of. And he, the only thing that we knew that he got was diagnosed for gum disease, really bad. And then back in 80 or 81, he passed away in a car accident. So we don't know if he would have gotten cancer but I would think he would have,
You have,
because he was exposed twice.
Yeah.
He was working as a iron worker,
yeah,
and so